Today we're learning to solve the more complex simultaneous equations algebraically by the elimination method. And what we're going to be faced with today may be questions that you can see that are down the bottom. And this is one of the ones that we'll do towards the back end of this video. Okay, and what we have here is a set of equations that don't have a negative and a positive separately. And also the numbers don't easily align up. So what we'd have to do is we need to do a bit of work around these to make sure we get them into the form where we can eliminate one of the variables. Right, so we're going to follow the same process as we did with the simpler ones. We're going to get each of the equations into the x plus y equals a number form. I don't think we need to change that around in this video, but if you get it in a different form, you need to change it to x plus y equals a number. This is a bit we're going to work on today, making sure we've got one positive, one negative, and that the values are the same. We're then just going to stack them up, the equations. We're going to add them together and we'll find the first variable, x or y, and then we'll find the second variable after that. So we're going to go into the video. We're going to work through from kind of easier ones through to difficult ones at the back end of the video. Make sure you check the ones out at the end. Make sure you've got them kind of under your belt. Right, let's go to the first question. Here we go. Right, so first question is, we're going to solve this pair of simultaneous equations. We've got 5y plus 4x equals 13, 3y, take away x is equal to 1. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. Equation number 1 here and equation number 2, just labelling them up for reference, okay? So what I need to do is to get one of these numbers, variables with a number in front, the coefficient, I need that to be the same, but one negative, one positive. The easiest one to do would be the x values, because if I want to get a 4 here, all I need to do is to times this equation number 2 by 4. When I times this one by 4, I must times each of these three things by 4 and work that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 4 and we'll get that. On the left hand side here, I'm just going to write an instruction that tells me that equation number 2, I'm going to multiply that by 4. Okay, so that's an instruction on the left hand side that I'm just doing. So when I multiply this by 4, what I get is I get 12y, take away 4x, and that's going to be is equal to 4. I'm going to call this now my equation number 3 because I've changed it in some way. I'm going to use equation number 1. I'm going to bring that one down just for ease to have it beside it. That's equation number 1. And what I'm going to do with these equations, I'm going to add them together. I'm going to add them. So I'm going to add equation 3 and equation 1 together. The reason why I'm doing that is so that I can eliminate the x variable or the x values that are here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So 12y plus 5y, that's going to give me 17y, and that's going to be equal to 17. Remember, these get eliminated to be a 0. And the good thing with that there is I just need to divide both sides by 17. Numbers work out quite nicely, and that's going to be y equals 1. Where the numbers don't work out nice and neat, they're going to be in your calculator paper. So, but most of this can be done without a calculator. Right, let's go ahead and get our other variable. So we're going to substitute y is equal to 1 into, and I'm going to just go for equation number 1 for all of these on the video. Sometimes it might be easier to put it into 2, okay, but I'm just going to go straight for 1, so we've got a method that we're just following just now. So the equation number 1 is 5y plus 4x is equal to 13. And what we're going to do is substitute that 1 in here. So 5 times 1 plus 4x equals 13. Now that's going to be equal to 5 when I multiply it. I don't want it on the left hand side, so I'll take 5 from both sides. That eliminates that part, leaving me with 4x is equal to 8. What I'll then do with that, I'll just divide both sides by 4. Eliminates that part, leaves me with x is equal to 2. So that will be my solution. Solution is x equals 2 and y equals 1. So if I'm not sure about that, or what I can do if I've only got one of these to do, I'll just check that. And I'm going to check it in equation number 2. I used equation number 1 to work out this variable, so I'm going to use 2 to do a check. So equation 2 starts off as 3y minus x equals 1. So if I substitute the y value in there, the x value in there, I hope this side here on the left hand side equals 1. And if it does, I've got the question right, okay? So 3 times 1 take away 2, hopefully that's equal to 1, and it's looking like it is. So 3 take away 2 is 1. Yeah, left-hand side of this part equals right-hand side. It balances up. I know I've got the question right, and I can leave the exam knowing that I've got this question right. If it's not right when you do the check, go back and look at your working. You may have made a wee mistake somewhere. Okay, let's move on with some more of the questions. Right then, so what we have here is two equations. I can see that I've got a plus and a minus in here. So, and what I want to do is to scale them up. It's called scaling up the equations. I want to scale one of them to match up with one of the numbers that's here. So I could just multiply equation number 1 by 2, and I'll have a positive 4 there and a negative 4 there, and I can eliminate these ones. Right, I'm going to do that. So that's equation 1, equation 2. So I'm going to multiply this equation here by 2 to allow me to get a 4 that's going to appear in here. So instruction, equation 1 times 2. So what we've got here is we've got 10x, because I'm multiplying this equation that's here, plus 4y is equal to 22. Everything gets multiplied. So that's my equation number 3. So I'm going to be using equation 2 and 3 here together. So I'm just going to put my line there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to add 2 and 3 together. The reason why I'm doing that is I've got a negative 4y and a plus 4y, which should eliminate when I do that. Okay, so adding these together, I've got 13x. Adding these together, I get 26. And all I need to do is divide both sides by 13. And that should leave me with an x is equal to 2. So I've got the first variable. And what I'll do is I'll substitute x equals 2 into, and I'm going to go into equation number 1, just as a common. Right, so 5x plus 2y equals 11. I'll substitute my 2 in here, so that'll be 5 times 2. So that should give me 10 when I multiply that. So if I take 10 away from both sides, okay, that'll get eliminated, leaving with 2y is equal to 1. And then all I'll do is divide both sides by 2, and that leaves me with y is equal to a half. Okay, so if I get a half or a fraction coming out, I'd like to check that before I'm sure of my solutions, okay? Because maybe I've made a mistake somewhere up above and I'll be able to check it. So I'm going to check this in equation number 2, just like we're doing. So equation 2 starts off 3x minus 4y equals 4. I want to put my x value in there, so 3 times 2, and my y value in there, which is a half, and I want that left-hand side to equal 4. So that's going to give me 6. Take away 4 times a half will give me 2, yep, or a half of 4 gives me 2. All in good, yep, this works out. So left hand side equals right hand side. So I know I've got it right. So I'll write down my solutions, okay? So my solution is, so my x is equal to 2 and my y is equal to a half, okay? So the check's really good, especially if you're in your exam and you've only got one of them to do. So it doesn't take very long to do, or you can do it mentally. Right then, okay, so here we go again. We've got two equations. We've got, we don't have a negative sign that's here, so I'm going to have to multiply one of them by a negative. And if I want to make a 3 in here, okay, I could multiply by negative 3 and get a negative 3y in here. I could also multiply by negative 4 and I could eliminate the x's. I'm just going to eliminate the y's in this case here. So equation number 1, equation 2. What I'm doing with equation 2, I'm multiplying it by minus 3. That will give me minus 3y here, remember, to eliminate here. Okay, so equation 2 times negative 3, so that's going to give me negative 3x, negative 3y, and that'll give me 3 times 4 gives me 12, but it's a negative 3, so it's negative 12, okay? What I'm then going to do is I'm going to bring down equation number 1, because that's the one I'm going to use with it. I've changed that equation 2, so I'm calling that one equation number 3, and what I've got here is I can eliminate, so I'm going to have the minus 3y and the plus 3y, they're going to kind of cancel out. Okay, so what we're doing once we add 3 and 1 together, so that there gives me x, so negative 3x plus 4x gives me 1x, so that's x on its own, And negative 12 plus 15 will give me an answer of 3. Or, if I look at it, 15 take away 12 gives me 3. So that's make up my x value. I'm going to substitute x equals 3 into equation number 1. So equation 1 starts off like that there. Okay, so just from up above. And what we'll do is substitute the 3 into here. So that's going to give me 12 when I multiply that. So I'm going to take 12 away from both sides. So that gets eliminated, leaving with 3y is equal to 3. So divide both sides of this equation by 3, leaving with y equals 1. So my solution is x equals 3, y equals 1. Okay, and I can do a check. A dead simple check would be to simplify, substitute it into here. So 3 plus 1 equals 4. Yeah, I know that one's right there. Okay, so you can do it mentally, or you can write down the check. No marks for that in your exam, but it's very worthwhile for yourself to make sure you've got the question right as you go forward. Okay, so here we go. We've got something a bit more complicated here. What we have is we've got a negative and we've got a positive, which is pretty good. But the numbers don't match up, and I can only make up these numbers to the same if I multiplied one of them by a fraction, but I don't want to do that. What I want to work with is some whole numbers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this one and I'm going to multiply the top equation by the number that's there, and what that will do is that will give me 6x there, a positive, and if I multiply this equation here by that number there, which is a 2, that will give me a negative 6. So this is a common way to work this question out here. So if I've got equation number 1 on the top and I've got equation number 2 here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the top equation by this number that's sitting here. So I'm going to multiply this number here by 3, okay? So I know that's a negative 3 that's sitting there. I'm multiplying it by 3 because I've already got a negative and a positive. And I'm going to multiply this bottom number, okay, this bottom equation, by the 2. And what that will do is if I multiply all of that, I'm going to be able to eliminate the middle terms that are there, because that's what I'm aiming for anyway. Right, so let's change both of these equations this time, okay? So equation 1, I'm going to multiply by 3 first of all. So that will be 15y, I'm going to multiply everything, remember, plus 6x equals 36. That's now my equation number 3, just for reference. Equation 2, what I'm doing with equation 2, I'm multiplying it by 2. So as you can see, it's that number times that equation, that number times that equation. That's all we're doing. So that will give me 8y, when I multiply that out there. So 2 times the 4 gives me 8, so that's an 8y. And 2 times the negative 3 gives me negative 6x. And 2 times the 5, well, that will give me 10. Okay, and that's my equation number 4. Okay, so I've got a positive and a negative. The values are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them. So equation 3 plus equation 4, when I add them together, so that's going to give me 23, isn't it? 23y is equal to, I'm going to add them together here. So I'm going to get 46 on that side there. Remember what we're doing, the reason why we're adding them is to eliminate the x variable that's here. So I just need to divide both sides by 23, and I'm glad that nice and neatly it works out to be an answer of 2. So y is equal to 2 from that one there. So I'll then substitute y equals 2 into, I'm just going to go back up to equation number 1. So if I go to equation number 1, what I've got there is, I've got 5y plus 2x equals 12. I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to put it in here. So that's going to give me a value of 10. So if I take 10 away from both sides, okay, 10 away from both sides, so that's going to cancel out there, okay. Whoops, I've written that down wrong. I've just copied that down wrong. So that's 12. Taking 10 away from both sides, that eliminates. That leaves me with 2x is equal to 2. And from there, dividing both sides by 2, what I'm left with is x equals 1. So I've got my both answers there. So I've got my solution. and that's x equals 1 and y equals 2. Okay, can do a check on this one. And I'm checking in equation 2 because I used equation 1 to solve that last part that's there. So I've got 4y minus 3x equals 5. So I want to substitute my values in at this side. Okay, for x is 1. And I want that to be equal to 5. If it equals to 5, I know I've got it right, because the left-hand side equals right-hand side, and it balances in the other equation as well. So that's that one completed. So this one here, I think this was the first one that I showed you when we were talking about the introduction to this video. So this one here, a bit more complicated. We don't have a negative sign in either of these here, so I can't eliminate them. The numbers aren't exactly the same. So I'm going to have to multiply both equations by a number to get the numbers the same. And I'm also going to have to multiply one of them by a negative number to make sure that I've got a positive and a negative that I can use to eliminate. Right, so equation number 1, equation number 2. So what I can do is multiply equation number 1 by the number that's sitting there. So I'm going to multiply that by 3. And I'm going to multiply equation 2 by the number that's up there, okay, by 7. But remember, one of them has to be multiplied by a negative, so I've got a negative and a positive, so I can add them and eliminate. So I'm going to make this one the negative, so that's going to be negative 7 that I'm multiplying by there. When I multiply by a negative, all the signs are going to change, remember. Let's go and do this just now. So equation 1 times 3, okay? So that will give me 9x plus 21y, and that will give me minus 6 that's there. Okay, that's my now equation number 3 as a reference. Well, I then said I'm going to multiply equation 2 by the negative 7. Okay, so what that should do is give me a good negative 21 sitting in here. So negative 7, that will give me negative 28x. And what we've got here is 7 times 3 gives me 21. I've got one negative, so it's negative 21y. So that's going to allow me to eliminate the y variables that are here. Okay, and then I've got negative 7 times negative 9. So watch out for your negative numbers. That's going to be a positive because I've got two negative numbers multiplied together, and that will give me an answer of 63 there. So that there is going to be my equation number 4. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing next from that is what we'll go for is we're going to add them together. Because what I've got is I've got these two variables, the same number, and one's a negative and one's a positive. So let's go for it. So what we're doing is we're going for equation 3 plus equation 4. So 3 plus 4. Okay, so on this side here, I've got, so that's going to be negative 19x. This is getting eliminated, and that's all the reason why we scaled the equations up, to eliminate something, and it's that we're eliminating. And on this side here, we've got 57 as a positive number when we add them together. I'll then divide by negative 19. That eliminates, and this works out nice and neatly to be 3, and it's a negative answer that we've got. So one negative in the division, so that's a negative 3 that goes there. Okay, so that's me got my x value. So what we'll do then is we will substitute the x is equal to minus 3 and 2, and we're going to just go for equation number 1. So equation 1 starts off as 3x plus 7y is equal to minus 2. So negative 3 going in here for x, so that's 3 times negative 3 plus 7y is equal to negative 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work that part out. So that's going to be negative 9 plus 7y is equal to minus 2. To get that 9 away from the left-hand side, I'm going to add 9 on. If I add 9 to the left-hand side of the equals, I must add it to the right as well. So that will get eliminated, leaving me with 7y is equal to, and if I've got negative 2 plus 9, that's going to take me to a positive 7. Dividing both sides by 7 leaves me with y is equal to 1. So that's my solution. X equals minus 3, and we've got y is equal to 1. There's my solution. If I double check that into here, then I can substitute that in there. That would be negative 12, that would be negative 12, yep. add on 3 gives it, yeah, that's right. So I know that that question's right there as well. Once I've substituted into equation 2 with these values, yeah, it balances up to being negative 9. Okay, last question. Okay, and for this one here, what we've got is we've got 2 negative signs that are there, okay? 2 negatives, so but I need a negative and a positive. So again, I'm going to have to multiply one of them by a negative number. And also, when I multiply by the negative number, I've got to multiply both of the equations by something so I can get these values to be the same, okay? So I've got options. I could multiply the top one by 5 and the bottom one by 8. And what that would do is it would give me 40s there, but I would need to multiply by one of them being a negative. Or I can multiply by this one here by 3, this one here by 8, one of them being a negative, and I'd eliminate the y values that are going to be there. I'm going to do that. Here's equation 1 and equation 2. Right then, so remember it's this number here I'm going to multiply the top one by. So that's going to be multiplied by 3 or negative 3. And the bottom one I'm going to multiply by 8 or it'll be negative 8. So one of them has to be a negative. I'm just going to make the bottom one a negative that's there. So, okay, so I'm multiplying by minus 8. What that'll do is it'll give me a positive number here and allow me to eliminate these equations. Right then, let's go for it. So equation number 1, and we're multiplying that by 3. Okay, so that's going to give me 24x minus 24y is equal to, so we've got 3 times the 16 is 48. So it's a negative 16, so it's a negative 48. So that is my equation number 3. So what we'll do next is we'll do for equation number 2, we'll times that by negative 8. So that will give me a negative 40 sitting there, 40x. It will be a positive because I've got negative 8 times a negative 3, and that will give me a positive value, and that will be 24y. So the good thing is I can see I'm going to be eliminating these ones here, and that's what I'd planned to do anyway. And then when I do 8 times 28, well, 8 times 20 is 160 plus 64. That will give me a positive answer of 224. So that's going to be 4. If you can't work that out in your head, just do a wee sum at the side and work it through. Or it may be a calculator question in your calculator paper. I'm going to add these two together. So that was my equation 3, my new one, plus my new equation number 4. And I'm going to add them together. So 24 plus negative 40. So that's going to take me to a negative answer. So that's going to be negative 16. It's going to be there. Remember, these are going to eliminate when I add them together. And what I've got here is I've got negative 48 plus 224, so that'll give me 176. Okay. What I'll then do is I'll divide both sides by negative 16. And what that should leave me with is x is equal to a negative answer, 176 over 16. Right, so I then have to think about, does 16 divide into 176? It does, and it's quite easy to do, but why don't we just think about simplifying the fraction down by dividing the top and the bottom by 2. They're both even numbers. So what that would give me would be a negative answer, and it's 88 if I do half that, and if I half that, that will give me 8. And it's a bit easier to see now. All I can do is 8 goes into 88 11 times, that will be negative 11 that will appear there. So x is equal to negative 11. Okay, so what we can do from there is we'll substitute x equaling negative 11 into equation number 1. So equation number 1 starts off with 8x minus 8y is equal to negative 16. So what we'll do is we'll substitute the negative 11 in here. So 8 times negative 11 minus 8y equals minus 16. So that there's going to be equal to negative 88 when I multiply that. So I'm going to add 88 to both sides, okay? And what that should do is eliminate that part there, because negative 88 plus 88 is 0. So I'm left with negative 8y is equal to, so if I add these together I get 72. I'll divide both sides by minus 8, and what I'm left with is y is equal to a minus 9. So I've got one negative at that side, so it must be a negative answer, and 8 goes into 72 9 times, so negative 9. So my solution is, and that's x is equal to negative 11, y equal to negative 9. Okay, so that's us kind of work through all of the questions that are here for working out equations that need to be solved algebraically. And what we're doing is using the elimination method. Some of these questions are a bit more challenging, and I would expect that the type of question that you'll get in your National 5 exam will be one where you have to scale both equations. That's normally what you'll have to do for your exam. And the elimination method, well, that works out quite nice and neatly, as long as you know that you've got to multiply one of them by a negative, one of them by a positive, maybe to get these values, one negative, one positive, and use the elimination method. So that's good that you've taken it all the way through to here. That should be enough on the simpler equations and the complex equations by elimination, and we'll move on to some exam questions maybe in the next video.